Like, what's the point of even going on these trips? Why do you escape leaving Canada, one of the arguably one of the best countries to
I
live
think
in?
people come in the way the majority that I've seen, the way they come into this trip is most undoubtedly have the idea that I'm gonna come and save the world, and then they come here and they're kicked in the face with the fact that you're just in the way of building a home, you're just in the way of cleaning a road, or you're just in the way of doing something else. And what they come the way it works is when you go home and you come back and you say you basically you have a better understanding of yourself and your role in the world, and the way the world works, whether that be you look at it from a global economic perspective, whether you look at it from a perspective of just being a human being and sharing the world. Yeah.
So when you go home, how do you voice that to...
It's the most difficult thing in the world to voice to my family, for example, who doesn't understand, maybe.
Right, and who might have the idea that you're leaving for a month to go save the world, and then you come back with the all high and mighty halo around your head.
Right. And that's the most... If you come back to your country, to your hometown, with a halo around your head and you flaunt that, everybody will hate you and they will not listen to your message. The key, I think, is to take the stories that you've heard, take these stories that you've heard and witnessed and experienced, and share it with everyone else in hopes that you can inspire others to kind of do the same thing, so they can actually come here and not only just learn, but see, feel, and touch the problems of the world.
And so what's the benefit of having this hands-on experience?
Because you can only learn so much in a textbook, you can only learn so much in a textbook. That's the ultimate answer. And the experience that you can get from the answers that you can learn, the answers that you can get rather from coming and doing a trip like this, will not be written in a textbook. When you, for example, let me give you an example. Let's say famine. Let's take the issue of famine. You could read books and books and books about famine until you get to the point where you just think you know famine inside out. And then you come here and then you go to, let's say, Mizoram, India, for example, and you experience and you meet, let's say, Sanjay or someone, and they're experiencing and going through famine. What happens is it becomes personalized, right? That issue becomes personalized. And then after that, when you hear the word famine, you don't think of the concept. You don't think of this foreign object or foreign concept anymore. You think of Sanjay. You think of someone who's suffering, an individual. And that's the whole key, to make these issues and problems personal. You have to personalize these things so you can actually care.
So how do you get the most out of these trips when you're on them?
Have fun.
When you're within the month, when you're on them, but you always have that idea, or you always have the knowledge that you're going back to Canada in 1 month, and you're not living in the slums of Gong Hills in just outside of Nairobi, Kenya. So how do you...
First things first, you have to drop the guilt.
Okay.
Drop the guilt, because that's not going to help anybody. You go and you see somebody living in the slums, it's not going to help you to feel guilty, and it's not going to help them for you to feel guilty. What is going to help, though, is you going and sitting in their home and see how they live, and see that 6 people are sharing a home that is 6 by 5 feet, and that you have the power. You yourself, as an individual, can actually change not one person's life, but the life of an entire family, possibly 2, with 1 month's check. That's in terms of finances. That's if you look at it in terms of finances.
Would you say just listening to their stories is a huge...
For shizzle. Yeah, for sure. Oops. Yeah, for sure.
Just listening to them is a huge
impact
on their lives as well.
Yeah, and
giving them the time of day where they may not have anybody giving them the time of day.
You've all witnessed the joy and the joy that these women in the slums, who are basically the lowest of the low in terms of the Kenyan society, and maybe even the world. These people all of a sudden get visitors from Canada or the United States, which for them might be a foreign concept, it might not be. And all of a sudden they feel special. We take the time to learn and to understand their stories. And that is key. Taking those stories, dubbing it in your head, personalizing it, and allowing that story, that individual story who might have died without anybody hearing their story, you have the chance and the opportunity to extend their story to the rest of the world.
So having done these trips before, how would you say that you apply your experiences, your learnings to your everyday life in Canada?
I learn, there are certain things, here's the way I see it. I'll answer your question, but I'm going to go on a tangent. there are two kinds of poverty that I see in the world, right? There's this material poverty, and then I categorize another one. It's like, I don't have an accurate term for it, but it's kind of like moral poverty almost, where we're losing this sense of, in cities especially, let's take Toronto for example, we're losing a sense of community. You know, the community that we've experienced in Ugunja, for example, here, we're losing that sense of community. Concepts of social justice, concepts of just human goodness and righteousness are slowly fading, and it's the scariest thing in the world to me. And basically what happens is we need to understand that while we don't experience material poverty, we experience this other sort of poverty, which we can come here and learn from. So you go away with a sense of understanding about community, with a sense of understanding about being humble, being a good human being, not flaunting your SUV in front of everybody, and keeping others in mind as you live your life. Does that answer your question?